Evelyn Whitmore had always believed that family was the safest place a person could rest their heart. Growing up in a modest but warm home, she learned early that loyalty was everything. Her mother used to say, "The world can turn against you, Evie, but blood will always stand." Evelyn carried those words like scripture into adulthood. She was the quieter of the two sisters, thoughtful, observant, careful with her choices. Where she walked, she measured her steps. Where she loved deeply. On the morning she got engaged to Daniel Reeves, she called her younger sister first. "Mara, he asked me." "I said yes," she whispered, her voice shaking with joy. Mara screamed so loudly through the phone that Evelyn had to pull it away from her ear. "I knew it. I knew he would. You deserve this more than anyone." Evelyn believed her. She wanted to believe her. Daniel was everything steady, soft-spoken, patient, the kind of man who listened before speaking. To Evelyn, marrying him felt like stepping into the peaceful life she had prayed for. And when Mara threw herself into wedding planning, touring venues, tasting cakes, picking fabrics, Evelyn felt surrounded by love. One evening while sorting invitation cards, Evelyn smiled and said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Mara hugged her from behind. "You'll never have to find out," she said. Evelyn closed her eyes, comforted. She did not see Mara's expression change. She did not notice the shadow that flickered across her sister's face. At that time, Evelyn believed her life was opening, not quietly beginning to fracture beneath her feet. Mara Whitmore had always lived loudly. Where Evelyn was calm, Mara was fire, impulsive, charming, and often forgiven too easily. Family members shook their heads at her mistakes, but still adore her. "That girl will test heaven itself," their uncle used to joke. Evelyn often found herself cleaning up emotional messes Mara left behind, breakups, debts, arguments, but she never complained. She saw protecting her sister as a duty. That is why, when Mara began spending unusual amounts of time with Daniel during wedding preparations, Evelyn brushed aside the discomfort. One afternoon, Evelyn walked into the kitchen and paused when she heard laughter, Daniel's low chuckle mixed with Mara's playful teasing. "If Eve sees this color combination, she'll panic," Mara joked, holding fabric swatches against Daniel's chest. Daniel smiled. "You know her well." Evelyn forced a laugh as she stepped in. "Planning secrets without the bride?" Mara looped her arm through Evelyn's. "Relax, it's all for you." Still, small moments lingered. Mara texting Daniel late at night about wedding logistics. Mara adjusting his tie with unnecessary intimacy. Once, Evelyn entered a room and they stepped apart too quickly. She mentioned it gently that night. "Do you think Mara's been overly involved?" Daniel frowned slightly. "She just wants the day to be perfect for you." Evelyn nodded, ashamed of her suspicion. "You're right. I'm overthinking." But as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unease settled in her chest like cold fog. She trusted them both. Yet something she could not name, kept whispering that trust was standing on fragile ground. A week before the wedding, Evelyn visited her sister's home to drop off bridesmaid dresses. Mara was out, but her 10-year-old niece, Sophie, opened the door. Sophie adored Evelyn and often followed her around like a shadow. That afternoon, however, the child seemed restless, biting her lip as Evelyn arranged the dresses. "Auntie Eve," she said quietly. Evelyn turned, smiling. "What is it, sweetheart?" Sophie hesitated. "Mommy said I shouldn't talk about it." Evelyn's smile faded slightly. "Talk about what?" The girl's eyes darted toward the hallway as if walls could listen. "Mommy has a secret about Uncle Daniel." Evelyn felt her stomach drop. She knelt slowly. "What kind of secret?" Sophie shook her head quickly. "I'm not supposed to say. She'll be mad." Evelyn softened her voice. "You're not in trouble. I just want to understand." Sophie whispered. "Mommy said after the wedding everyone will know." Evelyn's hands went cold. "Know what?" But the child clamped her mouth shut, frightened by her own words. When Mara returned later, cheerful and loud, Evelyn searched her face for clues. "Everything okay?" Mara asked. Evelyn forced a smile. Yes, Sophie, and I just talked. Mara's eyes flickered, just for a second. That night, Evelyn replayed the conversation over and over. After the wedding, everyone will know. She considered confronting Mara, even Daniel. Instead, she buried the fear. It's wedding stress, she told herself. Nothing more. Still, sleep abandoned her, replaced by a creeping dread she could neither explain nor escape. The wedding day arrived wrapped in white roses and golden light. Evelyn stood in the bridal suite, hands trembling as her veil was adjusted. You look like a dream, her mother whispered, tearful. Bridesmaids fluttered around her, laughter filling the air. Mara entered last, wearing deep emerald satin, glowing with confidence. My sister the bride, she said, kissing Evelyn's cheek. Evelyn studied her face. You're happy? She asked softly. Mara grinned. Of course. Why wouldn't I be? The ceremony began beautifully. Music swelled. Guests smiled. Daniel stood at the altar, eyes warm as Evelyn walked toward him. For a moment, peace returned. They reached the vows. Daniel had just begun speaking when a voice cut through the hall. Wait. Gasps rippled across the guests. Mara stepped forward, one hand resting on her stomach. Evelyn blinked, confused. Mara, what are you doing? Mara's voice shook, but not with fear. I can't let this wedding happen without the truth. Daniel stiffened beside Evelyn. What truth? Evelyn whispered. Mara inhaled deeply. I'm pregnant, and the baby is Daniel's. Silence exploded into chaos. Evelyn stared at her, unable to breathe. That's not funny, she said faintly. She looked at Daniel. Tell them. Daniel said nothing. His silence shattered her more than words could. Guests murmured. Her mother sobbed. Evelyn's bouquet slipped from her hands as the world tilted violently beneath her feet. Evelyn did not remember leaving the altar. One moment she was standing in front of hundreds of people. The next she was in a private corridor, gripping the wall for support. Daniel followed moments later. Eve, please listen. She held up her hand. Is it true? Her voice was hollow. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. We made a mistake months ago. It meant nothing. Evelyn laughed, a broken, unfamiliar sound. Nothing. He stepped closer. I didn't know she was pregnant. I swear. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. You betrayed me with my sister. Before he could answer, Sophie's small voice echoed down the hallway. Auntie Eve. The child ran toward her, crying. Mommy lied. Evelyn knelt instantly. What do you mean? Sophie sniffled. She told me to say the baby was Uncle Daniel's if anyone asked, but it's not. It's her boss's baby. Evelyn froze. Daniel's face drained of color. What? Sophie nodded desperately. I heard her on the phone. The truth detonated what little strength Evelyn had left. So Mara had lied, publicly, cruelly, weaponizing shame to destroy the wedding. Evelyn rose slowly, numb. From the ballroom, shouting and accusations roared. She did not go back. She removed her veil, placed it on a table, and walked toward the exit alone. Behind her, vows lay in ruins. Ahead of her was only silence, heartbreak, and a future she no longer recognized. The days that followed the ruined wedding passed like a blur Evelyn could neither control nor fully remember. She stayed inside her apartment with the curtains drawn, the wedding dress still sealed in its garment bag in the corner like a ghost she refused to bury. Her phone rang endlessly, family members, friends, even distant relatives, but she ignored them all. The only voice she allowed through was Sophie's. One evening, the child called, her small voice trembling. Auntie Eve, are you mad at me? Evelyn swallowed the ache in her throat.
No, sweetheart.
Never you. Sophie sniffled. Mommy says everything is broken because I talked. Evelyn closed her eyes, pain flashing through her. Listen to me, you told the truth. And truth never breaks things. It reveals what was already broken. There was silence before Sophie whispered, I miss you. Evelyn's voice softened. I miss you too. After the call ended, Evelyn cried for the first time since the wedding, not loud sobs, but quiet tears that slipped down without resistance. She realized then that she hadn't just lost a fiancé or a wedding. She had lost the version of her life she had trusted. And grief, she was learning, came not in storms, but in long, heavy fogs that refused to lift. 2 weeks later, Mara appeared unannounced at Evelyn's apartment door. Evelyn almost didn't open it, but curiosity and unfinished anger pulled her hand to the knob. Mara stood there, eyes swollen, hair unkempt, confidence stripped away. "Eve, please let me talk." Evelyn folded her arms. "You already talked. At my wedding." Mara flinched. "I panicked. I thought if everyone believed the baby was Daniel's, my boss would take responsibility. He's married, Eve. I was scared." Evelyn's laugh was cold. "So, you destroyed me to protect yourself?" Mara reached for her. "I never meant for it to go that far." Evelyn stepped back. "You stood in front of hundreds of people and announced a lie. You humiliated me." Tears streamed down Mara's face. "I've made mistakes before, you always forgave me." Evelyn's expression hardened. "This wasn't a mistake. This was betrayal." Mara's voice broke. "You're my sister." Evelyn replied quietly, "You should have remembered that before you slept with my fiancé." The words hung between them like shattered glass. Mara sank to her knees, sobbing. But Evelyn did not move to comfort her. For the first time in her life, she chose distance over duty. And when she closed the door, it felt less like cruelty and more like survival. Daniel tried next. He asked to meet at a quiet cafe across town where no one would recognize them. Evelyn almost refused, but she wanted closure, not reconciliation. He looked thinner when she arrived, guilt etched into his face. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. Evelyn sat without smiling. "Say what you came to say." He clasped his hands. "I hate what I did. It was one night. I was drunk, angry after an argument with you. I'm not excusing it. I'm explaining." Evelyn stared at him. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed my family." He nodded, eyes wet. "I know, but I still love you." She shook her head slowly. "Love doesn't survive where respect dies." He reached across the table. "We can fix this." Evelyn pulled her hand away. "There is no we left to fix." Her voice remained calm, but her heart pounded violently. "You and my sister shattered something sacred. I will heal, but not with either of you beside me." Daniel lowered his head, defeated. As Evelyn stood to leave, he whispered, "I'm sorry, Eve." She paused briefly before answering. "So, am I forever believing you were safe?" The scandal spread quickly, faster than Evelyn could outrun it. Social media whispers, extended family gossip, even strangers discussing the wedding disaster. At first, the humiliation crushed her. But therapy slowly became her refuge. Her therapist, Dr. Lawson, often asked gentle but piercing questions. "Why does their betrayal define your worth?" Evelyn would sit silently before answering, "Because I trusted them completely." One session, she admitted through tears, "I feel foolish, like everyone is laughing." Dr. Lawson leaned forward. "You are not foolish for loving sincerely. Their actions are not a reflection of your value." Those words became a turning point. Evelyn began journaling, exercising, even applying for jobs she once felt too intimidated to pursue. Healing did not come dramatically. It came in small victories, sleeping through the night, laughing at a movie, walking past bridal stores without breaking down. She was not the same woman who walked down that aisle, but she was beginning to understand that brokenness could reshape a person into something stronger if they allowed themselves to rebuild. Months later, Evelyn accepted a managerial role at a publishing firm in another part of the city. The change of environment helped. New colleagues knew nothing about her past. They only saw her professionalism, her calm leadership, her quiet strength. One coworker, Julian, once remarked during lunch, "You carry yourself like someone who survived a war." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Something like that." She did not elaborate. She had learned that not every story needed public telling. On weekends, she visited Sophie, meeting the child in parks or cafes, never at Mara's home. Their bond deepened. One afternoon, Sophie asked, Will you ever get married again? Evelyn considered the question carefully before replying, maybe, but only if it feels peaceful, not pressured. Sophie nodded wisely. You deserve peaceful. Evelyn hugged her tightly, realizing that healing sometimes came from protecting innocence, not just reclaiming her own. Nearly a year after the wedding, Evelyn encountered Mara by chance outside a small grocery store. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Mara looked drastically different, thinner, exhausted, pushing a stroller with a sleeping infant inside. Eve, she whispered. Evelyn's eyes drifted to the baby. Is that her? Mara nodded. Her name is Iris. Silence lingered before Mara spoke again. I lost my job, my apartment too. I'm staying with a friend. Evelyn listened, but did not react. I'm not telling you for pity, Mara added quickly. I just wanted you to know I understand what I did now. Evelyn studied her sister's tired face. There was no arrogance left, only consequence. Actions echo, Evelyn said quietly. Sometimes for years. Mara's eyes filled with tears. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Evelyn paused before answering honestly. I don't live in anger anymore, but forgiveness and closeness are not the same. Mara nodded slowly, absorbing the boundary. Sophie misses you every day, she said. Evelyn's expression softened. I see her often. Mara looked surprised and grateful. She trusts you more than me now, she admitted painfully. Evelyn replied gently but firmly. Trust has to be protected, not assumed. Mara wiped her tears. I lost you, and I lost her respect too. Evelyn did not deny it. Instead, she said, you didn't just lose a wedding, Mara. You lost the one person who always defended you. The words were not spoken with cruelty, only truth. Mara looked down at the stroller. I wish I could undo it. Evelyn responded softly. So, do I. But life, they both knew, did not reverse. Weeks later, Evelyn received a handwritten letter in the mail. She recognized Sophie's uneven handwriting instantly. She sat by her window and opened it slowly. Dear Auntie Eve, I know grown-ups make big mistakes. Mommy cries a lot now. I don't know if you'll ever forgive her, but I hope one day you feel happy again. You looked the happiest when you were planning your wedding, but I think you'll look even happier when someone loves you the right way. I love you forever. Sophie. Tears blurred Evelyn's vision before she finished reading. The letter did not reopen her wounds. It soothed them. She placed it carefully in her journal, whispering, Thank you, sweetheart. In that moment, she realized healing did not mean forgetting pain. It meant allowing hope to exist beside it. Years passed quietly after that. Evelyn built a life rooted in calm routines, meaningful work, and carefully chosen relationships. She traveled, wrote, mentored young editors, and invested time in causes supporting women rebuilding after emotional trauma. When colleagues asked why she never married, she would smile gently and reply, Peace became more important than promises. It wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. She had learned that love should feel safe, not performative. That loyalty should be proven in private, not declared in public ceremonies. She was no longer searching to replace what she lost. She was honoring what she had learned. One quiet evening, Evelyn sat on her balcony, watching the sunset bleed gold across the sky. Sophie, now a teenager, sat beside her, resting her head on Evelyn's shoulder. Do you regret it? Sophie asked suddenly. The wedding everything? Evelyn thought for a long moment before answering. I regret the pain, but not the lesson. She smiled softly. If that day hadn't happened, I might have spent my life loving people who didn't know how to love me back. Sophie squeezed her hand. You're strong, Auntie Eve. Evelyn looked out at the horizon, peaceful in a way she once thought impossible. No, she said gently. I just chose to heal instead of harden. And as the sun disappeared, Evelyn Whitmore felt no bitterness, only quiet gratitude that even from betrayal, she had rebuilt a life defined not by broken vows, but by unbreakable inner peace. Several months after that balcony conversation, Evelyn experienced something she had not felt in years, unexpected lightness. It began subtly, almost cautiously, when her publishing firm assigned her to lead a mentorship program for young writers. Many of them were women rebuilding their lives after personal crises, divorce, loss, betrayal, abandonment. During their first group session, one participant asked, "How do you trust again after being humiliated publicly?" The room fell silent, eyes turning toward Evelyn. She paused before answering honestly. "You don't start by trusting others, you start by trusting yourself again." The women leaned in as she continued. "I learned that my mistake wasn't loving deeply. It was ignoring the moments my spirit felt uneasy." After the session, a quiet man named Aaron, an illustrator collaborating on one of the firm's book projects, approached her. "You speak like someone who's lived 10 lives, he said gently. Evelyn smiled. Some lessons just arrive louder than others. Over the following months, Aaron's presence became familiar, but never intrusive. He never pried into her past, never rushed closeness. One evening while reviewing artwork together, he said, "I admire your calm, it feels earned." Evelyn studied him carefully, not with fear, but with discernment. She noticed how safe conversations with him felt, how silence between them was never heavy. Still, she guarded her heart, not out of bitterness, but wisdom. Later that night, journaling by her window, she wrote, "Healing doesn't close the door to love, it just teaches you which doors are safe to open slowly." For the first time since her wedding day, the thought of companionship did not terrify her. It simply existed, patient, unforced, and gentle as dawn light. 2 years later, Evelyn stood once more at a ceremonial aisle, but this time, not as a bride. She had been invited as guest of honor at Sophie's school graduation, where the teenager was delivering a speech on integrity. Sitting in the front row, Evelyn listened as Sophie spoke confidently into the microphone. "When I was younger, I told the truth even though it broke my family apart," she said. "I thought honesty destroyed things, but my aunt taught me that truth doesn't destroy. It rebuilds what lies try to hold together." Sophie's eyes found Evelyn in the crowd. "She showed me that healing is stronger than revenge." Tears filled Evelyn's eyes, not from pain, but pride. After the ceremony, Sophie ran into her arms. "Did I do okay?" she asked breathlessly. Evelyn laughed softly. "You did more than okay. You honored yourself." As they walked outside into the warm afternoon sun, Aaron, now a steady presence in Evelyn's life, waited nearby, holding flowers for Sophie. He smiled at Evelyn, not possessively, but respectfully. No promises had been rushed between them, yet something meaningful had grown, slow, intentional, peaceful. Evelyn looked around at the life she had rebuilt, trust restored carefully, love redefined, purpose strengthened. She realized her story had never truly been about betrayal. It had been about transformation. Squeezing Sophie's hand, she whispered, "See? Truth didn't ruin us. It set us free." And as laughter rose around them, Evelyn Whitmore walked forward, not as a woman marked by a broken wedding, but as one defined by resilience, wisdom, and a peace no one could ever take from her again.